He was football's Halley's Comet, flashing across the landscape for a brief yet spectacular period. In 1975, Philip Carman's first year in the AFL, he won Collingwood's Best and Fairest Award, represented Victoria and finished third in the Brownlow medal after missing 8 games with a broken foot. 3 years later, he and Collingwood parted ways after just 4 seasons and 66 games. Welcome to Open Mic, Phil.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Been an interesting journey, hasn't it? I mean, you ended up 100 games at 4 clubs. Did we get the best out of what Phil Carman had to offer?
Look, I'm often asked that. Obviously not. 100 league games of footy, it's nothing, is it? I look back and you see guys that have, and I'm actually envious of guys that have played 200 plus games. But there are a lot of situations or incidents that occurred that, sort of stopped me from playing more.
When you left, there was the 4 clubs. It was Collingwood, Melbourne, Essendon and North Melbourne. Did you feel unfulfilled, or is it only something now that when you look back on what your career and what it might have been?
Well, people are always saying, do you have any regrets? And obviously you do, but I would love to have been a one-club player.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have stayed at Collingwood, and because I just enjoy that environment. But circumstances had it that I switched clubs every sort of year or two.
Let's talk about those circumstances at Collingwood. It was inconceivable in your first 3 years at Collingwood that you would ever part. I mean, you were a star, they were a good club, playing finals. What went wrong in 1978?
I think what had happened prior to 78 was my first season there. I came across from South Australia, and I was with a club, Norwood, that seemed to have a very professional attitude. And when I got here, I imagined that the VFL would be a far more professional club, but it wasn't. My first year at Collingwood, my first 2 years actually, there was a lot of turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
The club was, from Murray the coach and
Murray
the president,
Wiedemann,
and the president then, there was a lot of infighting, and all I wanted to do was play footy, and I didn't want to be associated with things off the field, and therefore I just lost a fair bit of interest, I think, and I did things wrong. And then when Tommy arrived in my third year, I'd already got into a pattern of probably misbehaviour that he didn't like, and that continued on into my fourth year and his second year as coach. And at the end of that year, he parted company with myself, Len Thompson, Maxim Wayne Richardson, and probably another 2 or 3 players as well. I'm just so disappointed in hindsight. I would love to have stayed there. And I think, in a way, Tommy did the wrong thing by himself. Had he kept me there and sort of spent some time one-on-one with a few other people. So they played in a few.
They did. I was just thinking
after that.
79 through 81.
And I, when those few years, I'm thinking, gee, I'd love to be there. He probably did himself in a way a disservice. He probably felt he did the right thing, but he could have kept myself and probably 1 or 2 others he let go.
When you mention misbehaviour, I mean, my memory is not that you misbehaved. I mean, I think you were sort of a free spirit in a lot of ways, but what do you mean by misbehaviour?
Well, I love training. At that time, I was employed as Collingwood's development officer, so really I wasn't working as such. I would train in the morning and train in the evening, but I always felt that training should be pretty specific. And I trained hard in the morning, and the other guys would get at training, start at 5:30, and training would go till 7. And I felt that I'd done enough in the morning. I didn't need to do that much training as well, so I would tend to leave the track early on lots of occasions, and that happened when Murray was there. It happened again when Tommy was there. I recall one night Tommy coming into the change rooms, and I was sort of jumping into the spa or the shower or something. And he said, "You better come out on the track." And I said, "No, look, I'm not so." But just that sort of thing.
Is that the complete story? My understanding of that story was that you left the track because you'd done what you considered was a reasonable amount.
Yes.
Tommy came looking for you and ordered you back out from the shower.
And I didn't go back out.
And you didn't go?
No. So,
no wonder the relationship's out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just that sort of thing. And it just,
But Phil, I mean, we know, I mean, this is stating the obvious to you, but in a team game, can an individual, no matter how good he is, can he set the rules?
no, absolutely not. But it's just, I enjoyed playing. I didn't enjoy the environment of the club situation that much. And so I just, as I said, I just got into the habit of doing things my way, and I got away with it to a certain extent. I wasn't held to account often enough. I think once they may have called me into a meeting and explained to me that you can't do it, but as I said, I just got away with it, and it just happened too often.
Let's go to 1977 and the second semi-final against Hawthorn. You, for reasons best known to yourself, whacked Michael Tuck in the middle of the MCG. You were suspended for 2 games. There's no question that anyone involved with Collingwood at the time believed that that incident cost them the flag. Do you subscribe to that? Yeah,
well, looking back, I do. But it's interesting, if we can talk about that for a moment. Second semi-final, playing in front of 80,000 people, I'd kicked the first goal of the match, and I'd handball to Len Thompson. He kicked the second, and the adrenaline was really, really pumping. And just sort of was still early in the first quarter. The ball had been knocked away from our centre half forward, and in a final, I chased the ball down. I had to make a split decision. Do I sort of go for the footy or make a
physical
statement? And unfortunately, I didn't know who it was, and I just ran through, hit him with a forearm. I didn't think there was much in it until after the game. I was shown a replay of the incident, and I knew then that I was in a bit of strife.
Has Tommy ever forgiven you for that? Tommy Hafey?
I've only spoken to Tommy on a few occasions since. I wouldn't think we haven't discussed it, but I certainly wouldn't think he has. It's hard because he was quite a sensational coach at Collingwood, because he took us from the bottom to play off in a grand final in
77.
Yeah.
Given your importance to that footy team, was the action irresponsible?
Well, it obviously was, but when you're playing, and these things happen on the spur of the moment. You've obviously interviewed a lot of guys that have been in similar incidents. Wasn't premeditated, as I said. I just saw him there and I thought, bang, I'll knock him over, and which I did. Stupid thing to do, but a lot of people have made
but
errors.
finals time, I mean, the stakes are so much higher. And in that case, the year of 1977, when there was a draw in the first grand final, it was amazing. I mean, the fact that 2 games you missed were both grand finals, were they not?
That's right.
Yeah. Did you appeal after the draw? Did Collingwood and you go back to the AFL to see if in fact, given that the second match was going to be another grand final, they might have relented?
When I was suspended, they actually said that they were suspending me for 1 week this year in the first match of the following season. So we felt we had a case to go to appeal. We went in there and they just threw it out and said, no, look, you're suspended for the replay as well.
What about the reaction from, say, your teammates and from the supporters to events that unfolded? Now, I understand your point about you didn't go onto the ground to hit Tuck, but when the consequences were as grave as they were, I mean, was there any resentment from?
Oh, look, I would think so, because even though I've caught up with a lot of Collingwood players since, and we don't discuss it, you'd be annoyed, wouldn't you, if one of your teammates had let you down? You'd played in 2 grand finals and had a drawn and lost one, and the player that would have made a difference is not there, so they'd be a bit dirty on you for sure.
When you left Collingwood after 4 seasons and a spectacular stay, no doubt about that, you went to Melbourne and took Ron Barassi's number 31 jumper. Did you not have enough baggage without sort of loading that onto your back?
Well, I think they thought that I was going to sort of be an impact player for them, and they wanted some sales, something happened.
A promotional,
marketing stuff. So they gave me 31.
Why Melbourne, Phil? I mean, they weren't a great side at that time, were they?
No. What actually was interesting, I was at the football, the Swans and Carlton game, and then it just occurred to me that I'd actually agreed to play with South Melbourne. Graham John, the then president of the club, Ian Stewart, and a few other people came out to my farm at Lilydale, and we sat out in the back garden with a box of beer, and at the end of the night I shook hands and I'd agreed to play with them. I actually went on a end of season trip to the Gold Coast with them. So, but then
this is the end of '78, right?
Yes, yeah. So, but then when I got back, I realised, you know, because Melbourne had been talking to me, Collingwood had approaches from other clubs to, you know, get me to go to their clubs, but Collingwood would only clear me to a club that wasn't anywhere near the top of the ladder. Yeah. So, but anyway, in the end, I decided to go to Melbourne.
You only had the 1 year at Melbourne. What prompted another change?
Well, Carl Dittrich was coach, and there were a couple of incidents that occurred at training. I recall one. I think I wasn't playing well, and my when you go into this, normally the selectors tell you the team, but this particular Thursday evening they had the reserve side and the senior side up on the wall, and when I walked in, I didn't see it, and I just walked in and Smithy and a few other blokes that said, "Did you see the teams?" And I said, "No." I said, "What's up?" And they said, "Look, you're named for the reserves." And you know, with that, we went out to train, and we weren't training particularly well that night. And Carl called us in and said, "Leave the footies there, jog a lap, and I'll see you inside." Anyway, when I ran past the footies, I picked one up and kicked it directly at Carl. And, and I had to yell out to him. I said, "You better duck, Carl." And he said, "I'll see you inside." And I said, I whispered, I said, "No, you won't." So I grabbed my bag and went home. I was called into the club. Ray Manley, who was the general manager, then called me into the club. The next day, they fined me $1,000. But then there was only another 2 weeks of the season, and Ray called me in again, and excuse me, said, "Look, the Melbourne Footballers talk about Carl probably leaving the club anyway,
going back to St Kilda."
Yeah. And Ray said the club's not big enough for both you and Carl. And I thought that, you know, Carl was going. But he said, "Look, you know..."
It was you.
Remember, it was me, yeah.
Have you always been a law unto yourself, do you think?
No, well, I've always been an individual, yeah, but not a law unto myself. But as it's turned out, and as we're discussing this, it would appear so.
After the break, Phil, that fateful day at Moorabbin.
Sensational.
Let's go back to the start. You came across here in 1975. I understand in your third game, I know Collingwood was playing Fitzroy. You kicked 6 goals in the first half.
Right.
Amazing start for someone to step into the elite competition in this country and have that sort of impact. I mean, were you surprised? Did you think you could come over and take it by storm?
No, that's why I left it so late, because I think I was pretty comfortable in Adelaide, and as I said earlier, it was only at the age of 24, and a few things happened over there that I thought I'd give it a shot. But as I said again, that I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult, the competition, but it wasn't. You know, to me, it was just like playing back in Adelaide. It wasn't nearly as good as I thought it was going to be.
Your first 10 rounds, you played the first 10 games straight, averaging 21 possessions. Then you break a foot representing Victoria. You miss 8 games of football. 9 weeks out, 8 games of football, you come back and you kick 6 goals 8 and 11 goals 4 in successive weeks. I mean, you were a phenomenon, there's no doubt about that. It's difficult for you to say, but you dominated the competition that year.
Yeah, that was the best year of footy I'd probably played, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, would love to have played more footy like it, but it's just, as we said before, situations just didn't allow it.
Moorabbin's big in your football life.
For a couple of reasons, isn't it?
For more than one reason, yeah. One of them was the game you played at Moorabbin and kicked 11 goals in the white boots, when white boots were taboo. Just explain to me, this is not a criticism, but why the white boots?
Well, pretty simple. This was my first game back after the 8 weeks out,
Second. Kicked 6 in your first one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Murray Plant,
Yeah.
representative for Adidas, came out to training, and I'm sitting there with a few other players, and he sat down alongside me and gave me a box of boots. And he said, have a look at these. And I opened them up and they were white. And he said, what do you think? And I said, you're kidding, no, nobody would wear those. And so he handed me an envelope, and I opened the envelope and there was a cheque there, and I said, yeah, I'll wear them. Yeah.
Do you remember the numbers on the cheque?
Oh, it might have been $1,000 or something, not much.
April 1980. Does it ring any bells?
No.
No? April 1980. You're playing at Essendon. You're playing at Moorabbin against St
All
Kilda.
right, yep.
Yeah, you remember it now?
Okay.
It was a
I don't remember the dates.
fairly momentous day in your life, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was the headbutt with Graham Carberry, the boundary umpire, and the report for striking Gary Sidebottom. Can you explain the rationale for events that happened that day?
Yeah, it was in the second quarter. I contested the ball against Sidebottom, and we both went to the ground near the boundary. For some reason or other, I looked to my right and I could see the boundary umpire just squatting down near the point post, and for some reason I just gave Sidebottom a bit of a whack with my left. And unbeknownst to me, the field umpire was behind me. He ran in and said, look, I'm reporting you for striking. And then moments later, the Carberry, the boundary umpire, came up to me and he said he was reporting me. And I asked why, because I said, look, you didn't see anything. Because I saw him watching the play further upfield, that's why I hit Sidebottom. And anyway, he didn't answer, but it seemed like an eternity he was chesting me. And you couldn't touch umpires, you couldn't put your hand on them, and he was just, had his chest right up against mine. And for some reason or other, I'd never done anything like it before. I just dropped the forehead, and it wasn't terribly hard or anything, and he felt a bit of an impact and played it up a great deal, I think. But
He made it look like it was forceful contact, didn't he? No, I wasn't on the receiving end, so I don't know. But
well, I think even if you watch the incident, you can see that it was just sort of get out of my space. It wasn't very vicious, I wouldn't think.
But even all these years on, 30 years on, do you admit that you headbutted him?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No.
Did you think it warranted the penalty you got?
Well, of course.
Because it's an umpire.
Of course. Yeah, 20 weeks.
That
I was probably fortunate. I was only 20.
How did you feel when the dust settled on that? I mean, because in our sport, the umpires are sacred, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I think on the way home to Lilydale in the car, I was I think I was pretty close to tears. I realised, thinking, what have you done?
This is on the way home from the game.
Yeah. What have you done? And then subsequently you had the tribunal, and it was pretty ordinary time. So yeah, I just didn't know for a period of time what was going to happen.
Did you resent Graham Carberry's evidence and his reaction to the incident, or that was just you took that as that's what happened?
That's what it was. Yeah, that's it.
Have you seen him since?
No, I have not. No. Oh well, I saw he umpired a game in Sydney, and we were on the plane together after the game.
Did you say anything to him?
I wouldn't. Just a g'day.
That's all?
Basically, something like that, yeah. I can't really...
Didn't you end up sitting near him?
I did, but I wouldn't say what I said to him. But I didn't swear at him, but I can't say it.
Now, I was reading your profile in Wikipedia. Was there a second headbutting incident in your footy career in Canberra?
No, it was a push. I got suspended for pushing an umpire, not headbutting an umpire.
Where do you think that it's not rebellion, but just this sort of... I'm not sure
where it come from.
Yeah, I mean, when you were growing up, were you a wild kid in terms of behaviour and discipline, or not?
I think I can tell you why it happened. As a 17-year-old playing for Edenhope against Apsley, I was playing full forward. I took a mark early in the game and kicked what I thought was a goal, and the goal umpire sort of just put up his finger and said a point. Anyway, minutes later I took another mark, kicked the goal, and he put the two fingers up. And I walked up and I said, "Oh, about time you got that one right." And as I walked away up the ground, next minute, bang! I hit the ground. He came out and hit me across the head with the flags.
The goal umpire did?
Goal umpire. And I look back now and I think that's one defining moment that
really?
All these umpires. No, only joking. But that happened.
I thought it was a sweeping judgment to then sort of say you don't like any umpire.
No, it's just.
But that story was true at Eton.
Yeah.
That Canberra incident, why were you angry with the umpire then?
Well, look, when you've got the name that I had, umpires weren't your best friend, and I think they always gave you a hard time. You know, they wouldn't award you the kicks that other players would receive. I can't recall what happened, but I know that he came out to talk to me about something, and I actually I put a hand on him and said, "No, keep away," because I didn't, having been in the Carberry situation, I didn't want anything to happen. Subsequently, I got reported for manhandling the umpire, but there was certainly no headbutt in that.
Was it like the Greg Williams incident? Do you remember that one?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just keep away, just keep out of my space.
You say the umpires didn't like you. I mean, the umpires liked you enough to vote you third best in the Brownlow in your first year in the AFL, didn't they?
Mm. Oh well, that was squeaky clean then. So, but there were certain guys like myself and Dermot and others that, you know, they should have given you frees, but you didn't get what other players did.
Let's go to coaching. You've got the job at Sturt in the Sandful, 1995. They were on their bones, weren't they? This great footy club was down the bottom.
Correct.
Yeah, you had 6 or 7 years there.
I had seven years. Yeah. 7 years as senior coach. I was 2 as an assistant coach when Hayden Bunton Jr. was coaching.
Did you have a different perspective on players as a coach?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up. This is something positive, actually. Something that's.
We've been too negative, have we?
Oh well, I just. Yeah. That's all it can be, isn't it? Really. So, but this is probably the highlight of my footy career. I think I enjoyed playing, but I enjoyed so much more the enjoyment that I got out of Sturt. They'd been on the bottom 6 years prior to me getting there. They hadn't won more than 4 games in a year. My first season, Mike, we didn't win a game, and then we won 4. Then I think we won 12, and then we finished up in my 3rd or 4th year as minor premiers. Port Adelaide beat us. They had 8 players that represented Port Power through the season. They beat us by 8 points, and but that was coaching Sturt was just a wonderful thing, you know.
I know one thing, you would have had them fit. I mean, in the time that you were playing here, I think you were probably the fittest player in the competition. Your off-season regime was intense, wasn't it? You made sure you came back to football as fit as you could be.
Well, when I was in Adelaide, or even as a kid in Edenhope, I just ran all the time in Adelaide. And when I knew that I was coming to Victoria, I started this, I used to run 10 miles, once or twice a month, that sort of thing. So, I was just, basically I was a fitness fanatic before I got to Melbourne.
The big test of players in Melbourne, you know it, is running the Tan track, Botanical Gardens. One of your ex-teammates told me you were the world champion around the Tan. What was your best time, do you remember?
I can't recall the one lap, but I know that I ran 4 it was between 52 and 54 minutes.
How do you look back on your career? I mean, I sense that you think I'm focusing on the negative stuff now, but how does Phil Carman see his life in football?
Well, disappointing. People often they always say, "Have you got regrets?" And of course, you've got regrets. You loved, as I said earlier, I'd love to have played 200 games. I'd love to have played in a premiership and those sort of things. Unfortunately, what's happen's happened. You can't get it back.
Do you take any pride out of which you're entitled to do, out of the highs in your playing career?
Yeah. It's interesting though. A lot of people, as we've been discussing all the negative stuff, a lot of people, we never talk about. Wherever I go, not many people say, "Geez, you could play." It's always this incident, that incident type of thing. But yeah, I should be pretty pleased with what I've done. But
the thing is, and it's your life, I understand, but I suppose it's us looking at you, and you know how we all love footy, and we see this immense talent in front of us, and well, not now, but when we were watching you, and probably think it could have been more. That's all. I mean, it's not. I'm sorry if you think that I'm just hammering you about the dark side of your career, but I'm just probably thinking, in an envious sort of way, I would love to have had your talent and seen where it took me.
That's why when I was coaching, if I saw a guy, I used to say to them all the time, we just can't afford to waste your time, energy on other things. Just do the correct thing. Yeah.
What's your one favourite footy memory?
I would say probably just my favourite one was when Sturt we won our first game.
Really?
There you go. Yeah.
Is that right?
It was Adelaide Oval. Sensational. Yeah.
That was better than the Copeland Trophy?
Yeah, I probably think so. Because with a group of guys that have been through so much and so many people around the club that, we've all been wanting the success and we've just been waiting for it, and bang, it happened.
Hey Phil, I loved watching you play, and you've always been a good bloke. It was great to catch up. I'm sorry if there was a bit of negativity in there, but good to see you, and good to see you looking so well.
Thanks, Mike.
Next Monday night on Open Mic, the Saint who would do anything and everything for his team reveals all in one of the most provocative open mics ever. Stephen Baker is next week's guest. You don't want to miss it.
This has been a Fox Footy production.